So I'm going to speak about Artemisia as an ambassador of One Health. And I'm going to be very synthetic because it was asked me to be short in our current situation. So if we can have the first slide. So I wrote two books. The first book, and you can have the second on the table here. The first book was written in the context of COVID pandemic. And it was, the aims was to make a reviews of therapeutical potential of Artemisia and to integrate all the studies about using Artemisia Artemisia afra against viral disease and more specifically with coronavirus. And we were very thankful for the Chinese who made a lot of works. And the second one was less written in the, it was not in the context of emergency. But at the end of this, I was conscious to have forbidden some sides of the potential of Artemisia. And it was, so the second edition integrates the use of Artemisia with animals and also in agriculture, livestock, agriculture, horticulture. And it has been writing to be simple, to be as complete as possible, and to be in your pocket if you want. Okay. So it's too narrow to read, but One Health is a concept that has been promoted at the turn of the second and the third millennium. But the idea was first presented in 19th century. And in the years 60s and 70s, there was a reflection about the links between veterinary medicine, human medicine, and to think the links. And it was very important to think the link in the terms of with the zoonosis. I don't know the word in English. After they also linked this aspect of health with environmental health, and after with plant health and soil health. Plant health was quite the last topic that has been integrated with in One Health. But in fact, it's not the last thing, it's the first thing. Because plants linked to the soil create the condition of life. And so it's very important to connect all those things to have a kind of holistic approach of health. So, why Artemisia is a good ambassador for One Health? Because we see that it has been called as a systemic plant. It's not the only systemic plant, but it can, maybe it's the first one. Because it treats a lot of disease, and when you make a list, you can say, for example, how can it cure diarrhea and constipation in the same time? We were talking about this last night while we were eating. was a nice subject, appropriate situation. But in fact, it's not cure the symptom. It's help to regulate immunity and to regulate what our Spanish friend was talking about yesterday, about microbiomes. And microbiome is not just a human stuff. It's also plant stuff. It's also soil stuff, and it's so we share microbiome. All living beings share microbiomes. So when we have a good microbiome with what we eat, with the plants, and plants need to have a good microbiome in the soils. We have a good microbiome in ourselves. And the hypothesis that if plants can help to regulate human microbiome, and we have seen dogs' microbiome and cats' microbiome, and also cattle, rabbits, and livestock in general. In fact, we create a good situation to have a healthy ecosystem. That's the main point. So it's a phytotherapist called Harold Berner that classified Artemisia as a systemic plant. And the other plants of that kind is Cryptolepis, is the genus Sida, and also genus Bidens. And they have the specific property to go across to cross the intestinal barrier and to be integrated in the blood. And with the blood, it can go to every cell. That's why it's so powerful. Okay, next. So, Artemisia House made this figure that links human health, animal health, and environmental health. And we see that the Artemisia is in the center, but we can think in terms of herbal things, trees, etc., to be linked with all the other aspects. So to be synthetic. And that is an illustration of how we share microbiomes with livestock, with the soil, the plants, and our body. Okay. So in the books, I've listed the veterinary uses of Artemisia with the dosage for each kind of animals. And after veterinary use, we have horticultural and agricultural uses. Yeah, please. Yeah. There is the main part of the studies about agricultural things, scientific studies, was by using essential oils of Artemisia. And they show it works. But for the current farmers, essential oil is not affordable. And in my point of view, we need too much amount of plants to create essential use. And it's worth to use classical things like Artemisia tea. And we can also use different way of preparation with Artemisia, like water fermented preparation. That gives another aspect with lactic, for example, lactic bacteria or fermentation that are interesting too. So there is way simple. And you can also use powder when you sow seeds to prevent them to be eaten by birds or to be destroyed by pathogenic fungus, etc. So we can use powder, you can use infusion, and you can also use fermented preparation. But most of these aspects are not in scientific literature, but in agronomic return of experience in the field. Yeah. So I personally use Artemisia with in the framework of a cooperative that produce pineapples. And when I come to work with them, my aim was to train farmers to be after trainers of other farmers, in ways that with 10, for example, 10 farmers, we can easily teach, they can easily teach to hundreds, and this 100 can teach to 1,000, etc. That's a pedagogic framework. So in that case, we saw that our mission was to implement agroecological framework instead of just monoculture of pineapples. But when I saw with my team the pineapple, they quite all have disease. And this disease, we identified that it was mealybug wilt disease. Mealybug is very small, white insects that are that are the medium of viral disease that destroys the roots. And it was we were in the way to lose quite half pineapples. So, and with this, I use a method that has been invented by Didier, who's gonna speak just after me. So what I'm gonna say is just a teaser. I let him the priority of explaining himself is the way he discovered and how we use this. But the principle is to use Artemisia annua and Artemisia afra with other plants. For example, if we want to fight a bacterial disease, we're gonna use plants that have antibacterial property. Antiviral disease, antiviral property, etc., etc. And what was interesting in that topic, that when we are working with farmers, we help them to rediscover the richness of their own environment. And they are very glad to relink with knowledge of their father, grandfather, etc., etc. And the plants that exist are not weeds. They are resources. They are medicinal plants. If they grow, it's because they are necessary in that field. So we only use the weeds that are in the environment of the farmer, plus Artemisia that we brings us, and we mix this. We make a fermented preparation with this by adding other stuff like a source of sugar and things that Didier was gonna explain. And we saw it was very powerful to control mealybugs. So, but what was interesting is that well, disease is not just on pineapple. It's also on guava. It's also on mangoes. It's also on many. So they used to treat many other plants. It was not our mission to treat, but we teach. We are talking about this possibility, and they spontaneously use it for other plants they cultivate, and they use also with the environment of their livestock, and it's purified of parasites and other things that were around the hen house, the cow house, etc., etc. So that's, and we make some pedagogical tools with the photos, and we only with the list of the plants that can be available for that kind of disease. And it's a kind of notebooks, pedagogical notebooks that they can use after with other farmers. Yep. And we also integrate the photos of all the plants. And I am trying to categorize the plants of Rwanda in terms of what plants have antibacterial variety, property, antivirals, etc., etc. And to finish, my hypothesis that if we want to integrate one health system, Artemisia, we could also make Artemisia part of agroforest systems. For example, my hypothesis, I don't have the question, I don't have the answer, that if we interplant Artemisia with other crops as biomass crops, as plants of service, systemic service, ecological service. If we plant, especially Artemisia afra, that we can cut and regrow, cut and regrow, cut and regrow, and using a part of this material as mulch, it's gonna be eaten by organisms and microorganisms of the soils, and a part of this property will go in the soils. And the other thing is when you cut a perennial plant, one part of the exudate is increasing and go on liquid forms in the soils. And my hypothesis is that can improve microbiome of all the systems. And in this way, we can have a soil environment more resilient. So the idea is to take a knowledge we have in animal studies or in human studies and to try as an hypothesis in other contexts of vegetation and of soils. And I hope to give you a good answer. Right now, it's just an hypothesis, and I just finished here. And I'm very glad to know in this encounter to know Didier, which is my mentor, but I didn't knew before. That's it.